Awesome. Welcome, young lady. How do you be?
I'd be okay. I'm out back here at work, punched out and ready to go.
How did you make out with the aftermath of our conversation the other day?
I had just a really feelings weekend, let's just say. I had a lot of emotional stuff kind of coming up, and I had a lot of physical back pain all of a sudden. That it's kind of funny. Like, I was trying to figure out, has my pain been improving? And I wasn't really 100% sure, because I have the Avicin that I've been using a lot, and but it has, because I had like the worst back pain Saturday that I have had in months and months and months, and I just did my best to, like we talked about before, I was bringing love to it. I had full visions of, my grandkids, and just trying to, I guess, give all that mess a container of love to come to. It's the best I could. Mm-hmm. But I was also quite exhausted. I had some work. Saturday I had to work. Sunday I had some homework for my classes. So I just did the best I could to get through the real world things I had to get done. And the rest of it, I was just gentle with myself, because I just felt like that was the right thing.
Well, that sounds like a big step forward. Taking care of you. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. So where are we at today? What are we going to work on?
Well, I wanted to kind of finish up that worksheet, I think, that we were sort of beginning, when we spoke the other day. So what I had here so far from when I re-listened, and before we start, actually, I had a question from my re-listen to the show that we did.
Good.
So about the story with Jeannie's son, Ryan, it sounded like, if not for Jeannie's remembering that the cat died in the dryer, that he wouldn't have remembered it himself. So if I don't
not
have
without
someone
doing
remembering,
the work.
Okay, so that's kind of what
not
I was
without
getting
doing
at.
the work.
Like, so it's possible to work through those things even if you don't remember them, is kind of where my question is going.
Yes, there are two different ways that we can move into process. First of all, our definition of processing is the ability to keep love conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes things will come up cognitively as a memory. Gee, I got the full-blown memory of that. Other times it will just be processing the energy behind it. One of the beauties of really being practiced at the forgiveness process is you get to collapse the conscious, what we call the conscious, logical mind, and drop into the energetic patterns underneath them. If love, it's like the Grand Canyon was carved out by a flow of water over many, many, thousands, millions of years. And the flow of love through this energy system, where there are old crusted deposits, will be flushed out by that movement and that flow of love. So there are two different ways to do it. One, the memory may become full-blown. And, perhaps, one of the reasons why we hide things away is one, we were not safe enough to deal with them, and two, they were too difficult to process. They were too painful. And so if the space is not safe enough, if I'm not far enough along in my work to actually constitute or bring forward that energy along with all the memories connected to it, I can bring forward that energy and be melting it away without having to do cognitive awareness of it. Although usually once one processes something that's not done cognitively, there'll come a point where, and it might be, a week later or a year later, they're walking down the street and all of a sudden, bingo, up comes this memory. But having processed through it, it doesn't have the trauma that it otherwise would have.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So that's, I feel like then I was on the right track this weekend. I was feeling, but I was kind of thinking to myself, I don't know where any of this is from. You know?
And you don't need to. Cognitive awareness is absolutely not necessary. What is necessary is to, whenever hostility or fear moves, look at the goal that's driving the hostility or fear and cancel it and breathe. Keep inviting Ruka in. Keep inviting the breath in. You know, when they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain, they were not talking about a purple curtain in the church. The temple is this body-mind unit. The veil is the barrier between the conscious and the unconscious. And when we live in denial, we create this unnatural condition called an unconscious mind where things are hidden from us. And the objective is to open the veil. The veil is built by holding the breath. It literally turns what is conscious into unconscious information. And my take is it's unnatural for us to even have an unconscious. And so by breathing, the veil is broken down, and energetically or cognitively, whatever we've hidden from ourselves becomes available. Sometimes the things that we ultimately need to deal with are literally generational memories, which I think tend to be a little more difficult to capture than those that are not just coming from genes, but fresh, coming from brain cells. When I say fresh, I mean from some time in our own lifetime.
Okay.
So breathing with you. If all else fails, breathe.
I like that.
Yeah, that tool is always there. I was working with someone this morning who was in a lot of trauma, and he was moving in. We were doing a Zoom still point session, and it was like, so when I breathe like this, all of a sudden I feel this bliss energy coming in, this sweetness, and all that pain just disappears. And then I have that memory, and I go back to all that pain. And it's like, so notice what you just did in order to do that. What do you mean? Well, what are you doing right now? What's happening with your breath? Oh, I'm holding it. And so, number one key in the whole thing, you know, in the ancient scriptures where they describe the creation story, the completion of the creation of man does not say God sent out his spirit, as the Greeks would tell us. It says the Creator sent out its breath. And when we stop breathing, we literally disconnect ourselves. It's like we're floating out there alone, disconnected energetically in space. And when I reconnect, then I reestablish the flow of energy through me. And when I do, you know, if I've got a not yet carved out Grand Canyon in there, a whole lot of trauma, then with the breath I start to carve it out. And I want to keep it running.
Okay. Yeah.
So great question.
The breath keeps up the connection, and the not breathing is more of the separation, basically.
Yes, the breath is the connection.
Yeah.
It's literally our direct link. You know, when we hold the breath, it's like unplugging from our power supply. Have you heard me tell the rose and the butterfly story?
Yes, I have looked at it too in the app several times.
Right. So with that butterfly story, why did the rose die? Because it uprooted itself to give chase, to chase down the butterfly. If we don't stay connected with our source, we literally destroy ourselves. And when we make anything more important than being connected to our source, that's when and how we create an unconscious mind, by holding the breath in those moments.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, good breath. That's the kind that really is a good one.
All right. Well, so this worksheet I have here, I have in 1A, hi, Colleen. Do you want me to read through it, or do you want me to
Sure, go ahead.
How do you want to do this?
Just go ahead and catch us up to bring everybody up to speed as to where you are in the worksheet now. So go right from I, Colleen, who am love.
I, Colleen, who am love, am experiencing disappointment. And my denial, there we go, my initials there, displaces my experience of myself as my essence love, and my mind tells me that my emotions are caused by my trigger, David, my brother. My perception is that I am being silenced. And I'm going to have a little picture of myself with a little something over my mouth, like a plank with nails.
Right, okay.
Truth is, only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. The thought, a separate wake-up sheet for each I use to cause my emotion is, he is discounting my experience. I want to punish by becoming larger than him, or myself by becoming smaller. And that's where I am. So I'm willing to process all dis-ease as I go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. My desire, the constructive result, the exact goal that drives and uncovers my pain, is that I want David to respect my opinion.
Do you want him to respect your opinion, or do you want him to uplift you, respect you? Because it sounds like it's more personal, silence me. And it's really important, when you think of the mind as a filing cabinet, we've got a million files in there. And in a particular file where there's pain, and I want to clean out this pain, I'm going to have to accurately identify the goal that's causing my mind to open that particular file and contribute that pain to my current moment.
No, you're right.
So
if I
the
follow
difference
that thought, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if I follow the thought of respecting my opinion, it's, I form my opinion based on both life experience and my own personal research, and you seem like you're not trusting either of those things, which means you don't trust me, I guess. It's kind of
right. But your file on me is a different file than your file on opinions. If the pain's coming from the file in your mind, information stored away around having your opinion respected, that would be one thing. If it's in the file on me and me being respected, it's subtle, but they're different. And it's important to identify in every given moment. Like you might do one worksheet around this whole issue with him, and it might be about your opinion, and then the next worksheet might be, no, the pain of this moment is coming from the file on me. And so I'd want to make sure that I've got the most accurate goal possible each time I do a worksheet, so that, because when I cancel that goal, it's that file that I get to drop into. When my perception comes from a particular part of my multi-generational database, I have this reality, this 9-bit picture in my mind that's painful. If I identify the accurate goal that's driving it, then that construct of my mind will drop directly into that file where the pain is stored. I'll have access to that energy and be able to clean it out. But if I've got a goal, like oftentimes we'll see people who will shift worksheets halfway through, and I think one of the reasons for that is because I don't really want to look at or feel that part of it. So it might be, I want my boss to respect me, and that is the real core goal. And so somebody goes up to it, and then they come up to too much pain in that file, so what I want is just to have a better life. And it's true, I do want to have a better life, but that's not the goal that's driving the pain at this moment. the one about the boss respecting me, is the one that's driving my pain at this moment. And the only way I'm going to get this construct of my mind, a good image, although it's not a very nice event that happened. If you think about 9/11, we all watched when the planes hit the tower just dropped into its own footprint. What I want is for my pained perception to drop into its own footprint in my unconscious. And that way I have access, direct access, to that part of my mind that is pained. If I'm in denial and I load a goal, then what happens is I use that pained part of my mind that I've hidden from myself to build my brain's image of them. So when it's resonated, I get to experience my pain, but I get to see it in my mind as connected to them, which means I'm feeling my pain, but I'm in an indirect relationship to it. The way that part of the mind gets cleaned out is when I come into direct relationship with the pain. And so I look at the accurate goal that's driving this particular pain, I cancel it, and now it's like I take the middleman out, whoever I'm projecting it on, and now that construct in my mind, just like the 9/11 towers, drops right into its own footprint. Now I'm in direct relationship with that pain. And when I can hold to active love, pain dissolves. If I breathe. So which goal would be accurate in this scenario as you're working on it right now?
I think it is respect me, because as you were speaking, I started to realize that in a way I don't actually care that much about the respect of the opinions that I express, because some of them are wrong. It's that this is the distinction that I have usually with with things being brought up in me with him versus other people, is that other people may not agree with my opinions, but there's a respect of me in the room too. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And they can disagree without disrespecting.
Correct. And
yeah.
It's more like, well, I'll have to just look into that. It doesn't sound right to me, but obviously if you're saying it, maybe there's some reason I should look at. That's kind of what I get. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
That doesn't bother me when I'm wrong. Again, sometimes I find that I'm wrong in those situations, which is nice because it doesn't get to the anger levels. You know what I mean? But when I don't feel that anything coming out of my mouth is worthy because it's coming out of me, that's a different feeling.
Yeah. Well, the thing that led me to suggest that it might be more personal in regard to you than the opinion was your earlier language seemed to be more related to you as a person than to your opinions. And you might do both worksheets, but yeah, I think it is more the personal. It's about how he disses me.
Yeah.
So what is it that in that good breath? So what is it in that circumstance that you want from him?
That's what I'm on now. So let's see. My desire is that he respect me, so that I can.
Now.
Oh God! I just got this line in my head that sounds so corny, but it's what came out. Was feel like I'm part of the family, which is brought tears.
That's
in my
your
eyes.
core. There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did I mention? Yeah, I have a different dad than the rest of them biologically.
So it really isn't about him respecting you. It's about him treating you in a way that includes you in the family.
I guess so.
Yeah.
That's a new one that just came out in this
Good
moment.
catch. It always amazes me when we start letting go of goals, what lies underneath. So just breathe into that. Right. Yeah. Just let yourself breathe into that for a minute or two. And feel what it felt like to be isolated from the family. Outcast.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Mm.
Another reason I left early. Yeah, that just opened up a bunch of things in my head now. I guess I need a few worksheets on, but
Go for it. So make some notes while you're in this place in touch with that. Yeah. Make some notes what each little aspect of that is, because it can be easy for the mind to just, I'll remember that after the worksheet, and then it's gone. So important now to take every subtle thought and jot it down. What I usually do is I usually have at least a dozen worksheets blank whenever I do a worksheet, and if I get in touch with anything, as you just have, I then put it on the next worksheet, the next worksheet, the next worksheet.
Okay, all right, so, yeah. It's just two occasions that just came up in my head that really highlighted that particular feeling. So I'll have to go back to those. Okay, 4. I need to breathe a moment.
Yeah, just stay with your breath for a minute or two. Go ahead, we'll just breathe with you. So you're safe?
Yeah, I'm just getting backwards. I have this vision of my grandkids just touching my hand and pulling me into another room. Come, look. And,
yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that scene so much.
So notice you're supported and cared for.
I choose love, my essence, which stirs the love from everyone involved. Check.
So this is a place where you really tap into and make sure that love is conscious, active, and present. Because that's the master solvent for anything you uncover. And the breath delivers it.
When upset, my perception, my mind's construct is built out of correct data driven by my goal. I cancel out, should I say that then? Driven by my goal for David to respect me. By canceling that goal.
Was it for David to respect you, or for David to include you in the family?
Oh, well, that was the so that I can. Okay, so that's together as a goal.
Okay, good. Yeah, that works. You do both of them then. Okay.
Okay, so it's built correct data driven by my goal for him to respect me and to include me as part of the family. Yeah, that's it, because that just made me tear up. Whew. Whew. By canceling that goal, the driver that selects the data that produces my reality, my errant perception collapses and I get to drop into the parts of my mind hidden from me by my pretense that others are responsible for what I have created again.
So notice that you have this family, this community on Mind Shifters Radio, and you literally have people from one end of the globe to the other. You know, Bob is probably on down in Australia, and Peter is perhaps on over in Sweden. Poland is probably tapped in right now, and who knows how many states. And in the future, as people listen to this radio show, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years from now, there'll be still a larger community holding the space for you right now. And so just let yourself be really connected to that family.
You have no idea how grateful I am because of that.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. None of us ever get through this alone. It takes community.
Okay. Well, holding with that support, holding love conscious, active, and present, I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling my goal for David to respect and include me in the family. I cancel my need to be included in the family.
And just watch the thoughts that come. Are you breathing?
Oh.
Just notice how easy it is. Yeah, notice how easy it is.
I kept getting all these thoughts of me and my dad, like my technical stepdad, but he's never been like that to me. He's been like my dad. But I got to say, in a way, we were almost both outcasty as far as my mom trying to make this family of hers, and it seemed like we kept getting in the way, and then we'd be, he'd take me to the track with him, and I don't know, we just kind of had this little outlier convention between us sometimes that made me feel better because I felt like an outlier, and so that way,
So Dad was able to embrace you and include you.
He did. Oh, he didn't. In fact, they'd probably call me the favorite because I think it was just either that's true or there was an overcorrection, or I don't really know the answer. But there was definite favoritism shown because, I don't know, he kind of liked the same, break the rules type of stuff I was trying to do as a teenager,
Right.
Rebel type of thing, and, that wasn't what my mother was trying to accomplish with the two little kids.
So it might be a good time to let yourself take another breath and just really hold him in appreciation and extend that presence of love to him in deep, deep appreciation.
Yeah, he even told me one time. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
He even told me once, it was kind of funny, my biological father had some serious alcohol problems and some violent problems, and at one point when I was being kind of ornery as a teenager, and you go through that, I wish my real father was alive, whatever, and all this stuff against my mom, and I think my aunt was the one who came forward and was like, listen, he was not such a great guy, and told me all these things about him that, were not good at all. And I was upset, and my stepfather, who never met my father ever, but they were both in Vietnam, told me that he shared a foxhole with him, and he was a nice guy, and told me, I forget what the exact details, but he tried to humanize him to me because I had this, picture of where I came from.
Breathe into that. There's who you really want to have including you in the family. There's your dad. So I'd make a note to do a worksheet on your dad, this same worksheet.
Good. Bio dad or my stepdad?
Bio dad.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's, that's one of those things that I started doing worksheets on a while back when you had advised me to, and I think I did that thing where you said it got too big, and I backed off from it. And I actually found a letter from his mother that in his stuff just recently at my mother's house, writing to my mother these horrendous things right after his death, like a year after, saying that he should have died at birth and all this other horrendous, horrible things that could only be said by somebody who's just so, living such a life of pain. I couldn't even imagine what would make a mother say the things she said about him to his wife who had lost him a year before. But anyway, and I thought to myself, there's a lot there generationally, and I'm a little scared of it. I'm not going to lie.
Good. So it's powerful to let yourself be in touch with that. And then, and again, make a note. Next worksheet is going to be on this fear that involves your grandmother. So 1C in that worksheet would be grandmother and what she did or said to your mom.
Yeah, it definitely gave me another, I was like, I don't know, it gave me a ton of, I wanted to go hug my mom, but I didn't want to get her upset over it. She would have been 19 reading that, just by herself with a baby.
Wow.
Yeah.
So maybe that will help to introduce another layer of compassion for mom and her pain and her trauma.
Yeah.
Big stuff.
That's what I mean by they all turn into like octopuses or whatever.
Yeah.
Hydra, as Jamie said, actually. Yeah. All right. Back on the front here.
So now's the time to invite in, on the next level, the super processor, Ruka-Dakucha.
Okay.
So 5B.
I invite Ruka-Dakucha, climb me toward healing. Restore me to my newborn essence, love. Heal my
You said that like you meant it.
Oh,
good work. Yeah.
I always say it like I mean it, and when I do this, I mean, what's the point of doing
All right.
I'm not going to. And capacity to generate my emotion of disappointment.
So bring your answer for 1B down here. Yeah. And I'm willing to live in a mind that could never produce disappointment ever again, no matter what happens.
I'm willing to live in a mind that should never produce disappointment ever again, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Help me open a direct, conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied, disassociated, and projected parts of my mind. I cancel my need to be right and make up another story out of my hidden, corrupt data to hallucinate proof that my fear or hostility-based story, that my reality is true.
Breathe into that one. Just let everything soften. Notice anywhere there's any tension in your body, and let it soften. Let it go. Remembering that
get all the way from my brother to my grandmother.
Well, the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone.
This is not where I thought I was going today. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. That's why it's called the unconscious.
Yeah.
And then remember what Carl Jung says, until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. So this dynamic no longer needs to direct your life. You've allowed yourself to become fully conscious of it. And that's the whole idea of the worksheet. Because conscious awareness, introducing any lesser thought to the presence of love, begins the dissolution or the transmutation of that lesser thought. And usually they're things that have run the family system for generations.
I need you to expand. What was the lesser? Can you just say that again? What is to bring active love to the lesser thought?
When I bring an energy that's less than love to the presence of active love,
okay,
the lesser energetic pattern begins its dissolution. It begins to be washed away by the presence of active love. And that's why, people have a list of all these things. Look, if I do this, and this, then I'll be loving. We're not looking for you to be loving. We're looking to support you in being love so that there's the actual presence of love. That's where the healing comes in. People make a list and say, well, I'll do all these things, then I'll be loved. No, you'll be a human doing those things. When we step into being the presence of love, then we do those things, not because they're on the list, but because that's what love does. We do them automatically.
Right. Like habitual love.
Yeah, it's just what a mind connected to love does. But somebody watches somebody else with a mind connected to love and goes, oh, well, that's what it looks like, so I'll do all those things. And that can be helpful. The old fake it till you make it can be helpful. But doing all the things that love would do doesn't mean that love is present. The idea of the work is to actually be the presence of love and have your doing come from that. So I acknowledge your courage. It's pretty courageous what you've just done.
All right. So I now feel, I don't know how I feel now.
Okay, mark that in there. I don't know how I feel. Relief, okay. I put both down. I don't know how I feel, and then relief. Just acknowledging, because oftentimes when we let go of an old trauma energy that we're so used to, like the good old family feeling, I don't even know how to identify what this new thing is.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I agree. I see that I have much work to do.
Welcome to the non-human race. That's us. All of us. I say this often on the show, but I recognize very clearly for me in terms of my own personal process, in doing what you're doing now over the years, that while in the early years I did many of the bigger, more traumatic pieces of work, more pained pieces of work, it's just in the last 2 or 3 years that I've done, for me, in terms of my own personal forgiveness work, my own personal process, that I've done the deepest and most important pieces of that work in just the last 2 or 3 years.
Save the best for last, huh? Well, not last necessarily, I guess, right?
Right.
There is no
Rocking
last,
on.
right? All right. So now I have dropped my emotions. Well, now I'm laughing at myself, pretty much.
Good catch.
That's just, I do a lot of laughing at myself lately, I've noticed. Getting all in a dither over things that are in my head.
Yeah. So you don't want to get into a dither, you want to get into a pattern of breathing and forgiveness.
Yes.
And it's interesting, one of the things, we're going to move in the radio show into the end of suffering. And then I've been looking at maybe going into one of the books that was not canonized in the Bible, called the Gospel of Thomas. And there's a statement there where Yeshua says, that which you bring forth from within you will heal you. That which you refuse to bring forward from within you is what will destroy you. And, these energetic patterns, these disintegrative energies, in Aramaic, energies that are off the mark or were called sin, they're the things that destroy us. And, he further said, it's what comes out of your mouth, not what goes into your mouth. The verbal patterns that we use and the energetic patterns that we extend into our own physiology through the misuse of our voices is ultimately the only thing that can destroy us. And we've all been trained, from day one to do that. It's the whole culture. Mm-hmm. So it's a pretty significant task to do the work of overcoming that. So kudos for your courage.
All right.
And then about number one can see that. If you look back at number one now, what's that look like?
About number one, so that you mean with being silent?
The overall picture. If you just quickly in your mind went through 1A, B, C, D, and E, as you wrote it before you did the forgiveness process.
Oh, I see.
What do number 1A, B, C, and D, and E look like to you now?
I don't feel anything about it. I still.
Okay, well that's a big shift.
I mean, I don't feel like as offended as I felt.
Good.
I guess. I'm still like I'm not on board with, like totally discounting my experience as well, if that is what's happening. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And you never have to get on board with that one.
Yeah. Like I'm just I'm seeing about half the situations, though, that I didn't need to probably feel anyway about. And
right.
And I'm seeing other situations where, I could say, well, I don't agree, but I guess there's no reason to. I mean, in the ultimate scheme of things, we're talking about a podcast and none of us are making these big decisions in the world. Why would I be so upset about that anyway? I mean, I can take
for me, the other
elsewhere.
Right. The other insight that becomes glaringly obvious is you're not really dealing with the dynamic between you and your brother. You're dealing with the dynamic between your grandmother and your mother.
I keep wanting to sweep that particular thing under the rug, don't I? Oh, my.
Yeah, well, we're going to unsweep it until you get finished with it.
I really want to. That's kind of funny.
Nobody wants to look at that kind of stuff, but again,
it's an ugly
until
dynamic,
the unconscious becomes conscious.
It seems like an ugly dynamic, and like I said, just reading that letter recently, I think just pushed it further away. I was like,
it's pretty
God. Ugly. And, thinking of things in the generational terms, like the way you lay them out, I'm like, now I know I'm in for some trouble when I read that. No wonder. I don't know.
So remember that as you think about it, to keep your breath open and to be looking at the goals, there probably work needs to be done around grandmother goals for grandmother to have treated your mother differently, maybe goals for your grandmother to have seen your father differently, or maybe goals to have included your father in the family.
Well, and
rather
how
than
much
being
she
so
had been
rejecting.
treated to come out with that crap about her kids. Like, I don't know. It just started making me think down the line, like, my God, this must go on for a very long time to have gotten to that point.
Very likely,
But on the upside, that same day, I got to read there's a military yearbook, which I didn't know they had, but apparently they did. And he had all his friends, the people he served with, right in there. And there was a lot of love. So it wasn't all bad, but I don't know. Okay, I'm going to try this card now. Principle of the universe is that by giving, I first get the original. I am grateful for this opportunity to heal. I choose truth and perfect love. So, David, based on number 3 from love, I structure a goal toward you, offer to you I kind of want to say a distinction between things that you do and things I feel, maybe.
Say more about what that means for you.
Okay, so like I can now, it's clear that I'm taking a lot of the past and other things to do with my bio dad and everything else and bringing that all into our argument or confrontation. Right. And so my goal would be to be aware that that is on board while I am having, thoughts that something that he's saying is off. But I'm not sure how to condense that into a goal.
Would maybe the new goal that you could offer him, would even when he's playing out that dynamic, that you can include him in your heart?
Oh, yeah, that's actually that's a good goal.
Well, and when you do this goal at the end, you always take it back to and relate it to the goal in number 3. You make it specific to that. Because when I feel I've been deprived of something by someone, when I offer them that very thing that I feel I've been deprived of, I get the original. They get the carbon copy.
Wow. So I'm just realizing, so there's a dynamic that occurs in the situation. How I told you, like, that, after I stopped getting angry back, my next thing was to kind of make myself larger in a way that, but I tried to kind of include everybody else in the room, but him, like, I tried to make him feel not included in a way,
Yep.
It's almost exactly what happened.
That's why we call it projection.
Wow. Holy crap. That's
Remember,
okay.
Deny, project. They're whenever I'm in denial, whenever I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's happening inside of me, I take the very thing that I'm in denial of, and I use that to build my brain's image of them. So they show up with my problem attached, and I think it's their problem. But I'm accusing them of exactly what I'm doing. Whenever there's an emotional attachment, and a strong emotional, especially the stronger it is, the deeper it's going to be.
Okay, so I have now, David, based on number 3, from love, I structure a goal toward you and offer to you respect and inclusion and a presence of love.
Yeah. Rather than having to beat you up. Which is what that getting larger than him thing is about, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Just the way I can do it better. This is my particular superpower.
Yeah.
Which I'd rather use for good.
I'll join you in that one.
Okay, I think that might be one of the best worksheets I've ever done.
Sweet. Well, let's add another piece to the puzzle. Seeing as how there was mother and grandmother both involved in this, as well as dad, stepdad, brother. I mean, you got the whole family in there.
I do.
So remember, there's an ancient, and it's the principle of this step 7 of the worksheet. There's a requirement when they say, yes, what's most important in the law being the way things work in terms of actually being able to be a human being. And he says, have Rachma, which is a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain that keeps your mind on track with love, and it brings active love. It's a gateway that brings active love, your human life, back into full incarnation in your own form. That's what Rachma does. So when they say to Yeshua, what do we do? What's most important? He says, have this condition in your mind when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, and neighbor in Aramaic means anybody that you think about. And then he says, and by so doing, you maintain your human life. So this is a way you get to maintain your human life. And you notice that applies to anybody that you think about. But there's one other group of people that there's a different and higher requirement for. Do you remember what that group of people is?
As much as I listen, I don't have any thought right now, so please fill me in.
So it was Rachma for anybody that you think about, but it was honor for parents.
I don't remember that, and I don't know why, but okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So that commandment, honor thy father and thy mother. It's similar to the Rachma, but it takes it to a whole other level. And it says, honor thy father and mother, that thy days be long upon the earth. They knew the connectedness of how we destroy ourselves. So if my parents, were terrible, trauma, drama, pain, why would I want to honor that? Why would I want to honor them? And what the heck does the word honor mean? Why would I give that to them? Well, the truth is we've got it backward. Commandment is there so that we give something to ourselves. And the more dramatically painful a relationship is with parents, the more important it is to live that particular command. And honor in Aramaic is to bring Rachma, active love, into activity, into behavior toward them. Notice in that first one to everybody else, there's no requirement to bring it into activity. It just says, make sure that you maintain your human life by maintaining Rachma for the neighbor, anybody you think about, the Creator. But then they take it to a whole other level with parents or those who acted as parents for you. And it means now you bring the truth of your being, love, into action and activity toward them. And when you do, the fact that that active present love moves through you, parents were probably your power persons, that enhances the dissolution of the power person dynamic. I mean, it's brilliant. It sounds like I've had people in the past like, well, my mother and my father was such a rotten, no, I never want to do that for them. It's like, okay, so notice all that pain and trauma in you when you talk about them. That's why you want to honor them, because by bringing active present love into activity toward them, that part of your mind gets to heal. It's a gift you're giving yourself. It's not for them.
Right.
It's a mega key to healing.
But you can't do that if somebody's passed, obviously, right?
You can do that absolutely if somebody's passed.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Like in your mind, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Fully in your mind. Or let's say, you're contemplating mom And at 19, what she must have gone through reading that letter. And Mom's past, you can do a worksheet as though you were Mom on receiving that letter from your dad's mother and bringing love into that action. If that's something that your mother who's passed hasn't worked through, you'll open the space for her to let go of that, even though she's not in her body anymore.
Well, she's not passed. I was talking about my grandmother, but yeah,
okay.
I think I understand
same thing,
what you mean.
The principle,
No, weirdly
same
enough,
thing with
in that
grandmother.
case, she had actually wrote a letter back and folded it up, and it looked like she had never sent it. And I actually got to read her response, which for a 19-year-old was quite mature and loving, and just in a very, very loving and mature, healthy way, she set up a boundary. It's just kind of like, I'm not going to put up with this from you. If you want to be part of our family, that's one thing. But yeah, it was well done. Like
Notice we're back to being included or excluded. Yeah. Notice we're back to being included or excluded from the family too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, that was a theme going for me in my years growing up. I went back and forth a couple times before I was gone for good. Yeah, that's definitely a theme that I have to work with.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a root of a lot of things for me. For sure.
Yeah, I got it. I hear you.
Yeah. But
so I join you in letting that tender part of your own heart open.
Yeah.
And allowing that presence of love to move through you. You could, if you wanted to, create some healing for grandmother, though she's not passed away, to honor her, might be to do a worksheet on that letter to your mother as though you were your grandmother.
Oh. Okay.
So imagine that you're your grandmother and you're writing that letter to your mother, and what must be going on in the way of pain in her to write such a letter.
That will be interesting to do, because I was almost trying to, when I read it, it was interesting. I only really talked about it with a friend of mine, and I told her about it, and she was just like, oh my God, are you okay? And do this, and I would be like on the floor this, and I was like, no, and I'm like, actually I feel really awful about, I can't imagine what would put me to the place where I would write this about my kid. Like, I really,
right.
Who died a year before. Like, it's not even like he had just died, and she's still in the middle of grief, obviously, in a year, but I'm just saying it wasn't like today, it was a year later,
right.
And she just very, I was trying to imagine what would, because I've certainly learned. I was able to really heal with my own mother because I made some really imperfect decisions with my own children later in life. That
right.
I was like, oh, wow, I was being pretty judgy with her, apparently, and started to realize, just how imperfect we all are. Sometimes.
Yeah. So your grandmother probably took that to her grave.
Yeah.
And so the way to honor her would be to pick up and do that piece of work, which very likely could be the liberation of her soul from that energy pattern, and having to do that one again. That would be honoring your grandmother. Awesome. Well, nice work, young lady. I acknowledge your courage and your willingness. Awesome piece of work.
Thank you. I appreciate the support. This has been amazing. Like I said, I listen intellectually. I take it in, but it takes a while to really try and make it a habit. But
It
I'm
is a
trying.
process for sure. All right. Well, you have a blessed one, and everybody, thank you for joining us. Create the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world.